Hi, I'm Joe Jankowski from the Eastern Connecticut Beekeepers Association here at Joe's Bees Apiary in Coventry, Connecticut. And today's video is about the black bear in Connecticut and what you can do as a beekeeper to protect your hives. Now, black bears in Connecticut are endemic. We have over a population of over 1,000 bears, mostly in the western part of the state, but even here in eastern Connecticut, the bears are coming. The range of a black bear differs whether it's a male or a female. A female bear has a range of a couple of miles, but male bears, especially juvenile male bears, can travel for many, many miles. And bears have been sighted in just about every town here in eastern Connecticut. And one of the things bears like to do is visit beehives. They like the honey, and they especially like the brood. Well, to protect your beehives, you can construct one of these, an electric fence. And we're going to show you the components of an electric fence and how to set one up to protect your own apiary. I'm going to turn this over now to my assistant, Adam Fuller, who will show you the details of the components and construction of an electric fence.
Okay, so this is the main components of an electric fence. Most places, in most bee yards, are far enough away from electricity where you're going to end up with some sort of either battery operated or solar powered electric fence charger. So we have a solar powered electric fence charger. But before you put your charger in, you got to start with your posts. And I'm a big fan of putting good wooden posts down in the ground in the four corners of the bee yard. They don't have to be too set in concrete or anything, but I like to get like 6-foot posts, put them 2 feet in the ground if I can. I know this is Connecticut. Sometimes that's a major job around the rocks. This one has got a nice diagonal brace in here to try to stiffen it up a little bit. This is, you can see this thing moves, but that's perfectly good for this electric fence. So once you get your 4 posts in, then the next thing you want to do is, very, very important, you need a good ground. Now you go to any fence supply place, and they're, I don't know, 5 or 6 feet long. You drive them down into the ground as far as you can, and you want to have a 6 or 8 inches or a foot of it sticking up so you can attach the ground wire to that. So the next thing I do is I want to install the wires. And one thing to keep in mind when you're talking about electric fence and bears is that the bear is not going to climb over this fence, okay? So there's no sense in really having the wires any more than 3.5 feet off the ground. And then you can come down every 10 or 12 inches. And these are the most important ones because the bear is going to try to go under the fence. And if they can't get under the fence, sometimes they're going to try to dig under the fence. So this lower wire right here will get them when they are digging under the fence. And this fence is not going to electrocute the bear, but it's going to give them a very, very, very strong understanding that this fence is uncomfortable, okay? So right here in the corners on these wires is very simple. You can buy this cheap plastic tubing at the fence supply place. You run your wire through it, just hold it into place with a fence staple. Get them with all the supply houses have it. Then the next thing you want to do is you want to get an insulated ground wire that goes from the ground terminal on the fence charger down to your ground wire here. And the reason you want to insulate it is so you don't have to worry about it coming into contact with any of the live wires, okay? After you've got that done, you got the ground set up, then you hook up your hot lead from the red terminal on the charger, and that goes down. And what I do is I run it to the top wire, and then I just run these jumpers to connect all of these wires all the way down, okay? Starting at the top and ending at the bottom. And the reason that I like to end at the bottom is because if you get a lot of snow in the wintertime, you can come down here, disconnect this lower wire temporarily just by taking this jumper off right here, bring it up here and bring it onto these other wires, and then you're not going to be shorted out in the snow. That can be an issue with having these electric fences. Okay, so it's really a very simple thing to do. One of the things that you need to do is when you position this electric fence charger, the solar one, you want to have it so that it gets direct sun for a big part of the day. Now, one of the problems that this particular installation has is that there's a very large hickory tree over here, and as you can see, it's shading this solar collector on the charger. And Joe has been wrestling with this for this year, and he may eventually have to end up moving this charger to a different place if it doesn't stay charged long enough in the summertime. But anyway, secure the thing to a board that's screwed to your posts, and I mean, that's really the key to this whole thing. We're going to take a minute and we're going to go show you a few places where we had to make a few exceptions on this fence, and how to put a gate in, and so on and so forth. But this is the nerve center, the brain trust of the whole electric fence is right here where your charger is, where you've got your hot leads connected, and so on and so forth. While I'm thinking of it, one of the things that people will do quite often, if they've had a bear that's had experience with beehives and they want to train it to electric fence, you can get partially cooked bacon, just wrap it around the fence, and then let it hang there. The bear will come up, sniff that thing, get belted by it, and learn a valuable lesson about these fences. Sometimes you've got to train them to the fence. Once they learn, they'll stay away from it. Okay, so that's really all we got to say about this particular corner of the electric fence. Okay, so over here, this is another very important part of an electric fence, is you got to have a gate. If you got a fence, you got to get in here. So what we have done here is we've put these anchors into this maple tree right here. Now, I normally am very loath to put any metal into a tree because I've got a history of working with logs and lumber and so on and so forth, and you can ruin a lot of equipment. But this is a residential place, and Joe didn't mind having these anchors put into the tree here. So we just screwed these metal anchors in here. The wire comes around, it's permanently fixed here, and then we have these spring-loaded gate handles. And they're pretty easy. They got a hook on the end and a spring in here. The wire wraps around. When you hook it in, it makes contact, and it brings the electrical charge back around to the continuous fence in that direction. Okay, so obviously make sure you shut off your fence before you start opening it up. You don't have to worry about it, temporarily being off while you're working your bees. But these are very easy to get. They're cheap. These are a couple dollars a piece, $3 a piece. Each one of these little things are $2, $3. They're not a lot of money. And you put them up here. One of the things we had to keep in mind when we put these anchors in is we wanted to look at the tree and where there's a bulge so that the wires couldn't inadvertently ground out against the body of the tree, because it's not regularly shaped. And right over in here, you can see we had a potential conflict here. So I got these little insulating devices. I got all this stuff at Tractor Supply. And we just nailed these insulators in so that we avoided any potential short-circuiting of the fence against this tree here. So yeah, we got 4 gates, 4 gate handles, 4 wires on the fence. Over here on this side, we're going to show you how we dealt with the other end, the beginning end of this fence over here. And you can see where Joe is pointing, we put those permanent anchors right into the fence, into the oak tree there, and we anchored the end of the fence on those anchors. On the other side of this tree, which you can't see from the camera, is the other end of the fence. And they're anchored, similar anchors, on the back side of this oak tree. Now, keep in mind that you don't have to break the wire. You can have the wire go continuously around. It's not going to affect the operation of a direct current electric fence. Okay, so it's very simple process to go. These wires do not have to be tight. In between long runs, You can drive in metal stakes with, of course, appropriate insulators, and they will insulate the wires, you know, on the long spans. The only other thing that I will say is this: when you're buying electric fence chargers, solar chargers, I've got well over a dozen electric fences, and I found that the inexpensive solar chargers that you can get at Tractor Supply do not last very long, and Tractor Supply is not very good at standing behind failed electric fence chargers. I have switched all of my fences now over to the Parmac 12-volt solar panels, and that you can get 9,000 volts of DC current into that fence with those chargers, and they last for years and years and years. Occasionally the batteries will go, you can get new batteries. I've had much better results with spending the extra $100 on the Parmac chargers. While we're talking about money, the charger is the most expensive part of this whole fence. They typically run about $300. At most, on a fence like this, you're going to spend another $150 on posts and wire and handles and so on and so forth. The ground rods are $20 a piece or so. So you're going to have in the neighborhood of $500 or a little less invested in a solar electric bear fence. If you're close to regular electricity, you can get the ones that plug into a 110 volt outlet, and they're probably $150 for the fence chargers. Little less trouble with, you know, problems with batteries or shady trees or so on and so forth. But if you're far away like this fence is, you're going to have either a solar powered charger or a battery powered charger. And that in a nutshell is an electric bear fence.
Well, now you know how to set up your electric fence to protect your beehives. And what we know for sure is that the black bears are in Connecticut. The population is rising and their range is rising. So if you haven't seen a black bear in your community yet, you're going to see one soon. If you leave it to chance, there's a possibility your beehives will not get hit by a bear. If the sightings that you hear about are of juvenile males, they're probably just passing through. And if that bear finds your hives and knocks them over and makes a mess, well, you were unlucky. But if you hear about sightings of female bears with cubs in your town, they live where you live, and they will find your hives. And so if that is the situation in your town, then if you don't protect your hives with an electric fence, then it's not really the bear's fault, it's your fault because you aren't prepared to protect your beehives.